Esau fell on his sword when it all went wrong, and Joseph's brothers sold him down the river for a song. And Sonny Liston rubbed some tiger balm into his glove. Some things you do for money, and some you do for love, love, love. Raskolnikov felt sick, but he couldn't say why. When he saw his face reflected in his victim's twinkling eye. Some things you'll do for money, and some you'll do for fun. But the things you do for love are gonna come back to you one by one. Love, love is gonna lead you by the hand into a wide and soundless place. Now we see things as in a mirror dimly. Then we shall see each other face to face. And way out in Seattle, young Kurt Cobain snuck out to the greenhouse, put a bullet in his brain. Snakes in the grass beneath our feet, rain in the clouds above. Some moments last forever, but some flare out with love, love, love. Stay there for 27 weeks. And the Chicago Cubs will beat every team in the league. And the Tampa Bay Bucks will make it all the way to January. And I will love you again. I will love you like I used to. I will love you again. I will love you like I used to. The stars are going to spell out the answers to tomorrow's crossword. The Phillips Corporation will admit that they made an awful mistake. And Bill Gates will single-handedly spearhead the Heaven 17 revival. And the Chicago Cubs will beat every team in the league. And the Tampa Bay Bucks will take it all the way to the top. And I will love you again. I will love you like I used to. I will love you again. I will love you like I used to.
I love them Mountain Goats. And I'm sure I'm going to play more Mountain Goats in a minute. Good to see you, RPR. Good old friend you are. Stand-up guy. Warrior against the Illuminati. Speaker of truth and the reason people I've always liked you, my friend. And I like many people, whether or not they like me. I just sent an email to a dear old friend, and we didn't have a wonderful parting, at least in his part. To me, nothing is terrible, nothing is irrevocable, nothing is irreversible. Everything has a bright and shining side if we'll only open our eyes to see it. Opiate withdrawal can have a silver lining. And I don't mean when you've broken the addiction. I mean when you're in the midst of it, when you are yet kicking the habit, can have a bright and shining side. But to be honest, I haven't gotten a reply to that from that email. I'm waiting. Maybe I won't. The last email I sent this particular person, their response to me was like, well, if you ever think we're going to have a show again. And I had to write him a long email explaining, no, dude, I don't want to ever work with you again, ever, as long as I live. I don't ever want to see you. We're just old friends. And I often think of Magneto and Professor X, right? Don't we all when I say that? Because Professor X always referred to Magneto as my old friend, even though we all understood that they were enemies. Do you realize that your enemies are your dearest friends? My sacrosanct brethren? Do you understand that those you hate today, you may embrace tomorrow? Those you embrace today, you may loathe in the future? Is that something you can't grasp or can't understand? I learned it a long time ago. It only hurts when you like the person back. You know, it's the only time it really kind of digs at you. It's when you like the person back. So ain't nobody here. Good to have you here, RPR. I'm play a little more music. Wait to see if we can bump our numbers up. And if we can, why the ogre will speak. You know, if we can't, I don't know. Maybe I'll just play some music. I have no idea. I noticed my beard was a little bit out of kilter there. I'm gonna put my thing on here. I got it loosely done today. It's Sabbath. It's Sabbath for me today. It's my Sabbath, my Sabbat. It's my day of rest and reflection. It's my day of relaxation and realization that life is a sharp and stabbing pain in a Jew boy's ass. So anyway, I got something here. I just don't have it lined up yet. Yeah, I'm coming around. Just give me a second. Wait, no hurry. Ain't nobody here. Wait, no hurry. Just relax. Just relax. Oh, I didn't know he was on there. I really didn't know he was on there. I really don't care. He's probably on air with Magic Bollocks. Me and Mrs. Ogre were just talking about him last night. What a cunt. What a fucking weirdo. What a creepy piece of garbage. I can't even stand the thought of him. And so, but apparently, I mean, common sense guy, he makes his own choices. I like him. He's my friend. He doesn't ask me on his show anymore, but he does Magic Bollocks. I mean, that's fine. That's cool. Whatever makes him happy. I mean, Magic Bollocks is more on his mental level than I am. And that's fine. That's cool. I always like to shoot above my station, you know, like to go higher than where I'm at. But, you know, I'm weird. I'm strange. I'm not a normal person. I'm me. And I have managed. I was just talking to somebody the other day and they were like, man, you know, your channel. I have managed to pare my channel down to just a place where I can go blow off steam. I don't ever worry about getting taken down because I'm too small. Nobody gives a fuck about me and what I do. Nobody cares. And that's what I like. I want it that way. All right, so I'm going to blow off a little steam today. Why don't we do this? Let's see. Let's see if I can play this for Steven Crowder. Here we go. They're trying to destroy him for this. This is Steven Crowder, Dr. Trump.
Made me oh so bad, and I'm the only one to make it happen. And if I tell you what I'm gonna do, don't you know it's really frankly true? They call me Dr. Trump. I've got the witch you're dreaming of. And even though I'm full of sin, in the end, you know I'll win. They'll piss and moan, yeah, you know it's true. But we all know it's cause they just fake news. So Cuomo, please get on your knees. Grab some pillows, baby, if you please. Baby, get ready if you're feeling chapped. And get ready to kiss my ass. They call me Dr. Trump. I've got the witch you're dreaming of. They call me Dr. Trump. I got the witch you're dreaming of. They call me Dr. Trump. I got the witch you're dreaming of. They call me Dr. Trump.
I lost the top to my hash container. I found it though. I thought that was great, man. I'm not in a position to really put the video up and sync it up with the audio the way I got the audio pumped in. So, I mean, that was just audio there, but it was good. It's what you call a parody. I'm trying to sue him over it, but there's really not any way they can sue him. How you doing, Mr. Elko? Good to see you there. Gamer 900. Why not 9,000? Well, whatever. Good to see you. Why don't you have a wrench? You've never done anything to me. Welcome, my friend. Welcome. And we're gonna play more music as I get stoned, and then I'm gonna go into the monologue. I'd like to give people a chance to meander on in. I got a tiny channel, and I do weird shit like blow my nose loudly right in the middle of saying something. And so, it takes a minute for people to swing by sometimes. And what I have to say today is very important. It's life-changing. And I want to give everyone a chance to tell their friends and to, get people to swing by. So there's as many here as there possibly can be. Not to feed my ego. It's not about my ego. Holy shit, like I said before, if it was about my ego and the size of my channel, I'd have made a lot of other decisions that I haven't yet made. I used to have a producer. Some of you long timers know that. Dougie Butter. Called him Butter. But he didn't last long. We used to do it every day back then, and he just couldn't make it. I paid him in weed, and he wasn't happy enough. I don't know, man. How much weed you got to give a guy to show up for 2 hours a day? Apparently, 1/8 of an ounce wasn't enough. And that's a lot. That's kind of a lot for 2 hours. I mean, it's $50. So $25 an hour. I don't seem too bad for me. When I was his age, I'd have jumped on that motherfucker. I'd have been looking around when I was on my way out, being like, hey, do you need any other help around here? But I didn't mess around when I was young. I do now. I take a lot of time to fuck off. Probably way too much. I'm grasping, like, gaining the childhood that I think I lost at one time. So I'm up for requests of you, massive 3 that are here. Anything you want to hear, pop it to me. Oh, the way it's working out right now, I don't even care if it gives me a strike. I think I've got it now. I'll have it if I plug my computer in. Well, we'll have to let it start up now. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I unplugged my laptop. This thing's 10 years old. Still lasted that long. See what it does when I hit the power button. Never know. I plugged it in. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Now it's just not. I might not be online. I don't know. No, it's not booting up. Yep.
George, I think we should listen.
Go very well.
Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this. Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this. Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this. Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this.
602.
Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this. Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this. Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this. Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this.
A deep satisfaction.
602. 602. 602. 602. 602.
Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this. Never give and Bob never be this. Sing songs, us sings this. Us and never give us this. Us and never give us and never give us this. Us and never give us and never give us this. Us and never came to us, and never give us this us, and never came to us, and never give us this us, and never came to us, and never give us this us, and never came to
Surge of deep satisfaction.
I went home with the waitress, the way I always do. How was I to know she was with the Russians too? I was gambling in Havana. I took a little risk. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this. Ha! I'm the innocent bystander. Somehow I got stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I'm down on my luck. Yes, I'm down on my luck. Well, I'm down on my luck. I'm hiding in Honduras. I'm a desperate man. Send lawyers, guns, and money. The shit has hit the fan. And lawyers, guns, and money.
Kind of the subjective severity of the crime and where that line is drawn. And that's the problem that I have. Because once we start selectively, subjectively as well, deciding what law is now good enough to lose a vote and what isn't, we then go into discrimination of the person who's having different laws. Like, what's the difference between the person who nicks $250 to the person who nicks $251?
Well, that $1.
Well, exactly. That's the difference in that aspect. That classifies that as a misdemeanor and that to a felony.
Yeah, the American legal system is one that lacks a severe amount of nuance. I mean, it purposely avoids nuance.
No, we're suggestively trying to ascertain ourselves what we think constitutes as a crime that makes you lose your vote. We all agree that there should be some crimes that don't lose the vote, and we all agree that there should be crimes that do lose the vote. But where's that bit in the middle? And as we're talking about it, we might want to expand upon it.
Well, CSG, I mean, come on. We got two dudes in the U.S. and one dude from the U.K. right now. So obviously we're a representative sample about what would make sense for the entire United States of America. And going off your point right there about somewhat of the middle ground, rather than just having a misdemeanor or a felony, should we have something more in the middle? Let's say perhaps a third category, kind of maybe... I don't know, as Red Foreman may say, the category dumbass. And again, this is just a thought experiment here. That's not what we should actually call it. But you get the thing where it's somebody does something, they fucked up, they realize they fucked up, we realize they fucked up. So it's kind of like somewhere.
That's the strangest thing that's ever happened. I'm broadcasting. I can share this with you too to show I'm not lying. I was broadcasting Common Sense Guy, and here an embedded page on this page says Hangouts will end. I'm saying okay. I'm trying to share this with you all so you can just see that yeah, it's saying that, you know, that I gotta you know, quit, or I can't even show you apparently. Cancel. I'm trying to show you, but it's not. Oh yeah, there we go. Because it's saying that I'm broadcasting. Can you believe that? I guess I can't even broadcast Common Sense Guy. I don't know what else I'm unless it's just now picking up, you know, Lawyers, Guns, and Money. That's so fucking crazy. I hit more info, and it's like, how can we help you? You can't help me. YouTube. They could stay out of it because they're only giving me a place to be. They can't really take the blame for me using somebody else's stuff. That's fucked up, man. And these assholes over here talking, I kind of want to listen to them. Let's see.
Between a misdemeanor and a felony, where it's like, all right, you were a dumbass. You're going to do your time. However, we're going to make sure that you are afforded certain rights, and that upon your completion, you can have all your rights. And maybe this is a better thing, just a little third category in there. Call that, well, we're not that bad, or whatever it is. I just love the Red Foreman mimetic of somebody screws up and it's like, dumbass.
I think that's a beautiful title or label for that category, dumbass.
It's going to offend a bunch of people, so of course you're going to need to. Because let's face it, it's like you say I'm a felon, or someone's like I'm a dumbass. It's like, even though we know that the felony is the more serious one, having to force somebody to call someone a dumbass again, this was a joke. I think. Well, I mean, if I was in the UK, I'd probably be arrested. But
Oh yeah, there is that.
Oi, where's your joke license?
Fuck, I don't have one. But to go back to your point, I do think that there are distinctions that can be made, and I do think that there are differences. Obviously, as you all have said, there are nuances. I hate that fucking word.
It's not coming up. So
there are
far.
nuances to it, and I do agree that there are different levels. But the point that I'm trying to get through at this point in time, and I know it doesn't matter because we're not going to change anything, and I know that it's all subjective to what our points of view are anyway. But if we're going to go down the thought experiment of saying that we think that some people should have rights and some people shouldn't, maybe us as subjectively as we're talking at this moment in time should have an idea of what we're trying to suggest or implement.
Yes. No trolling in the
I don't know what the
side
fuck
chat
you're
at
talking
all.
about.
So, but yeah, no, and that's the thing there, and I do really appreciate that, CSG. No, there is nuance to this. It's just a lot of times people often don't speak up for whatever reason, because either they want to avoid conflict, or maybe they don't necessarily want to get in trouble or go against a particular community they're a part of. But it's just when something does happen to something that's near and dear to their heart, a person they care about or themselves personally, those are often issues that they speak up on. And you know what? We need to hear those stories so we can avoid injustice. Will we do that perfectly? No. We're human beings. We're perfectly imperfect creatures. I stand by, like I think everyone in this chat and everyone that's watching, that I think we can do better. We can disagree upon how to achieve those goals, but that's the whole Hegelian dialect.
Yeah, this is live too,
we work
MC.
through it.
Isn't that
We
funny?
take the good ideas wherever they may come from, and we implement them the best we can to the best of our ability to provide for a better
Hey,
future.
MCJK, if you want to tell him to shut
No
up, go
worries,
to
that-
Common
that
Sense
didn't
Guy's
answer
channel
my
right now. I'm
question,
just
though.
rebroadcasting this
I
as
forgot
it
you asked the
happens.
question. I just started bloviating.
I
I
gathered
didn't
you
know they were
pontificated
online
half
doing
my
streams,
point.
so I let him do a stream, and then when he's done, I'll do mine.
But yeah, I was trying to say that subjectively, we've all decided that there are differences and
MC,
nuances
it's good
in
to
this
see you.
situation. So why don't we try? And I'm not saying that what you're going to say is correct, and I'm not going to say what I'm going to say is correct. But if we're having the differences and we're having the conversation, why don't we try to distinguish what that line is, rather than just saying there is a line?
Because humans are messy.
Agreed.
Uh,
Which is why we have a blanket law.
Well, messy can be good.
No, but that's what my point was. We're trying to change what already mostly and not completely, and there are flaws, but we are trying to change what does work and we're not trying to explain how we're going to make it better. So,
I mean, does it work?
yes, blanket bans on having the vote taken away from
I love it,
felons
MC. I saw your
works,
comment
yes.
over there. That's fucking awesome,
I
bro.
mean,
Thank you,
we have the
MCJK.
system in place, but does it work in making our society a better?
Does it make it a
society?
worse
And for
society?
anyone
Does it
else
make
that
it a
doesn't
worse
know,
society?
I'm going to send the link over.
I'd argue
I mean,
yes.
open it up in two windows
you
or whatever.
have
Mute one of
less
us. Mute him or
people
mute me.
Being
If you mute him,
franchised.
though, you'll be able to hear
You
everything
got
they say
less
and me.
people,
But there you go.
being able to have a voice in our
Let me
political
look it
system.
up real quick because I got it on a different computer.
Okay, fine. Now
I've
explain
got
where
two
the line should
computers
be.
set up because one's broadcasting the sound to my soundboard and the other one is this computer.
And we get into the mess.
So here we go.
Yeah.
That's the point that I'm trying to make.
I'm going to
At
send
the
you Common
moment,
Sense Guys
there
link here
are
just a
flaws
second.
with the
This
system.
is for
I am not
RPR.
disputing that there
and for
are
Gamer.
none in the system, but the system as an overall works. So you're suggesting that we should change
I
the
didn't get a fucking
system.
notice for this.
How do we change the system to the better, and where's the line to change it?
Pisses me off. I didn't get a fucking
I'm
notice
not
for
a
this.
lawyer. We can we're not policy makers. We can argue. We can.
No, they know
I'm not-
RPR.
and just a second,
RPR,
I
they
just
know.
wanted to
You'll
say that
see.
I'm not
I
suggesting
told
that
them I'm
any of you,
broadcasting them. We're
including
not
myself, are
eavesdropping.
policymakers.
We're not. It's
We are
good.
having a conversation between free plebeians. I don't even live in your country.
I wouldn't do that
I
to
cannot
Common
decide
Sense
for
Guy.
you what you
I
can
wouldn't
and
do that.
cannot do.
I would not fucking broadcast
But
him without him
the
knowing.
point
He's my
is,
brother.
you two are suggesting that there should be a line. That point that I'm trying to make is your subjective idea of where that line should be hinders and connotates where your point is. So where should that line be under your impression? Not the fact that you are going to decide what the policy is, but in your interpretation and your impression, where should it be?
Let me pose this question to you, CSG. If we did a blanket like Senator Sanders sounds like he was proposing of reinstating the voting rights of all felons, even while they're serving their time, do you think that would take away from society? And if so, in what way?
Yes, because then it takes away of the fact that when you commit a crime, you lose your rights and you are being punished for the crime that you've done. I also believe that there should be rehabilitation, but you do need to be punished for the crime you commit.
Well, they
I
serve
mean-
their time.
You are.
Exactly. You serve your time, and while you serve your time, you don't have the right to vote as forms of punishment.
That's why I said, is it going to break the country?
It's not going to break the country, no, but it is going to give the same rights to prisoners.
Okay, that's what the argument is. It's again like they are to be punished for their crimes and serving their debt to society. However, while serving their debt to society, especially if they are a United States citizen, if they have the right to vote, how will that make the country worse, potentially having more people heard?
I'm being very, very honest with you guys, and I'm trying to explain my point of view very, very well as I possibly can. But obviously, I'm losing something here. The point that I'm trying to make is why you are serving your time, why you have broken your social contract with society, and you're being punished for breaking that social contract. You don't have the same rights when you are following that social contract.
Well,
We've all agreed that felons lose some rights.
Well,
Well,
they lose their liberty, their freedom.
they lose those rights based off of being able to house them in a prison and protect the safety of them and those around them.
Sure, I completely and utterly agree. But
How does denying the right to vote, how does allowing them the right to vote make them, less safe or more difficult to house them?
what do you mean? How does it make it It obviously makes it difficult for them to house them, because for a start, they have to put in voting booths and make sure that people are counting the fucking votes. Which means that
You can do absentee ballots. It's just a
prisoner,
form you fill out.
You're still allowed to send letters, because I remember I got one from one of my former roommates after he got picked up on a parole violation. So I mean, again, it's kind of like, okay, which rights? You lose your liberty to go out there because you are being confined, and this is again, like CSG. I'm entertaining Senator Sanders' idea as a thought experiment here. Is If you say the system currently works under that, would the system currently not work? Because, I mean, if we still have 100+ million folks voting, even if every single one of those felons or individuals who do not currently have the right to vote, if they have the right to vote, I mean, again, they're still going to be voting in their individual states, their districts, and everything as well. They just still will be paying their debt to society due to their loss of freedom.
Why did they get that right? Why did they get that right after breaking their social contract? Why did they get that right to vote?
Because they're U.S. citizens.
Then, in that case, give them back the Second Amendment. Give them the fact of being able to walk around and being able to walk around with liberty. Let them be able to walk around again.
Well, that is a fair statement, because if one is going to argue down this route, and you're arguing that you, the society, as long as hey, you're going to pay your debt to society. What is your minimum debt to society? You are going to be locked up and not allowed to actively participate physically within society. We have retained your right to write letters, and if you want to send in for an absentee ballot, you can do that. The argument here for it would be that since these folks are still allowed to participate in the system, you're going to increase at least their potential franchisement within the system to help try to minimize recidivism rates, because they feel like they're more of an active member of society. At least that's what I see of the argument of being for that as being.
Sure, I'm not saying that it would make them feel more enchanted into what they're trying to do. I'm not saying it wouldn't. The point that I'm making is that when you go to prison, you lose some of your rights. Why are they allowed to have the right to vote if they are being punished for breaking the societal contract?
Why shouldn't they have the right to vote?
Because they broke the societal contract. If they're allowed to have the right to vote, then they're allowed to have all their other rights.
Why are prisoners entitled to right? I think, is it the 8th Amendment where no unreasonable, no unusual, or no cruel or unusual punishment? Why are they entitled to that?
Well, that's why Joe Arpaio, I think, ended up being convicted because of the whole how he was treating prisoners and stuff like that. That's a separate issue. I'm not necessarily sure that's the best application of that cult, just because the cruel and unusual punishment, I mean, realistically, I mean, Europe has done stuff like this, at least in the past, even in, I think, the Roman Empire and stuff, because somebody had brought up the fact that slaves could vote in the Roman Empire. I looked into that, at least according to the Wikipedia article on it, of course, take that for what you will. It said that slaves that were freed had the right to vote. However, slaves that at the time were deemed to be, they used a particular word for it, but basically perhaps more violent or something like that, they were under a different class where they did lose the potential right to vote.
I'm making the point that prisoners are entitled to some rights.
Yeah, they are. They're allowed to have their life and liberty, as much as they're afforded while they're locked up. That doesn't mean that they're entitled to the right to vote.
Why not?
Trying to simulcast, folks.
Does not point out the
easiest thing
question.
ever
The
done,
point
but
is
I
that
didn't say
they
I was
are
a genius.
losing their rights. You're trying
I'm glad
to
you're
advocate
tuning
that
in.
they should
Please look
have
up to
that
the
right.
link
So make the point. You can't
right
prove the
above you there.
negative.
That's the channel that's
the
being
issue I think we're
rebroadcast
running into
that you
here,
hear while I'm
CSG, and
talking.
actually found this
And if everything
basically
goes right,
the,
I get this Yeti hooked up to my other
societal
computer.
dead man or something that was
I will
going on in
actually
Roman
be over
society,
there while I'm
where
monitoring
basically
this
if
channel.
you were
Something I've wanted
deemed
to do for a while, but
as
I've never
somebody
really
that
tried.
was like socially
So,
dead, you
do whatever
didn't
you
have
gotta do.
any like
Stay
civil
here.
or personal rights
Swing
or
over
anything
there,
like
but I
that.
do
Technically,
ask
since we're
if
outside
if
the
you
law,
swing
somebody
over
could
there,
literally
why
just
don't you
kill
be
you.
cool and just mute
That's
this
not
channel
the case. We're
and keep it up?
talking about
Nobody
right
gives me a view.
here. What we're talking
Uh,
about right here
It's a
is
little
if
cold. It's not
somebody
the smartest thing I ever did 'cause it's cold.
is
But ooh,
a
I gotta shut up.
citizen
I
of the
can't hear how
United
loud they are.
States,
Listen.
under basically, if somebody's going to pay their debt to society, what counts as paying your debt to society? Is it specifically your physical removal from society, in that you lose your liberty of basically able to physically move about as you would? Is that it, or does it go further than that physical loss of liberty, in that you also lose your ability to elect your representative members while you're still serving, because at least, and I do like that word enchantment, I'm going to use that more. Basically, if you could more positively enchant folks, and I mean, again, there would be some that would argue, oh, well, folks will vote in their self-interest. It's like, well, duh. I mean, people do that all the time.
Of course they do, but I'm not arguing that they should be able to vote or they shouldn't be able to vote. I'm voting. I'm suggesting that because they are prisoners and because they have broken laws, they should not get the right to vote while they are serving.
Aren't we just kind of labeling them as other people then?
No, we're not labeling them as other people. Well, you should get the vote. You are.
I'm arguing that we
Check.
should default towards freedom, unless otherwise there's some reason why we
I
should.
understand that, and I'm explaining the reasons, but you two do not want to accept those reasons, but they are the reasons.
Well, I think we're arguing upon where's that point, because if we're going to make the more libertarian argument of, well, where do your rights end? Your rights end where another person's rights begin. Where in this mess of things is that line?
Sure. Let me just quickly pose a question to you. If I infringe on your right, should I or should I not be punished?
Well, I mean, I might ask you to please stop.
No. If I infringe on your rights, not I'm going to or I'm thinking about it, if I have.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily need crimes that are committed are not always prosecuted as well.
Well, what purpose does denying someone the right to vote while they're in prison serve?
The point is to prove the fact that they are not part of society while they are paying back their societal debt for breaking crimes.
I mean, doesn't them being in prison prove that point far enough?
No, because if you still got all of your animal rights, all you're doing is being locked up and looked after in a particular place, which means more people that are, should we say, institutionalized would like to go to prison because, you know, they have the same rights.
Well, that would be a very interesting thing, because at that point, so what happens if we deem this, and again, I would say the right to vote would be maybe more fundamental than having HBO. I mean, OJ, when he was locked up, I mean, he did complain about that for a while. I think they may have gotten HBO at one point, but that's another thing. But what happens if it's like, all right, if you have the ability to do some work, and if you are potentially receiving basically free lodging and stuff, and you could just play around the internet and shit post and do what we're doing right now, like that, I mean, it's like, the crazy thing is, I think a lot of folks kind of, if technically we're going to go by the definition of you are basically not allowed to move about freely, a lot of folks are kind of choosing that by themselves. Like, I know I've been locked up in my room for far too long periods of time, but that was my personal choice.
Sure.
Like, no, that's why it's an interesting thought experiment, because you play it out, you're like, ooh.
Not particularly. The reason why it's not an interesting thought experiment is because no matter how long you stay in your room, you always have the chance of leaving. But if you've broken the law and broken your social contract and need to be, as you guys would say, rehabilitated at least, then you need to go to a particular facility to be able to do so, don't you?
Well, that's right. It's your loss of your choice.
Exactly. It's your loss of choice. And what's a bigger choice than being able to vote?
I don't know. Is that one of the choices that should be lost?
Yes.
Why?
The reason why it should be lost is because you have broken your social contract and you are a felon at that point in time. You are a convict. You have been convicted of committing a crime.
The argument for that cult would be kind of along the lines of the whole like Second Amendment thing, where basically if somebody is deemed as being dangerous to themselves or someone else in society. Even though we do have the Second Amendment, there are certain restrictions we may be placed on upon an individual for, and I hate saying these terms, the quote-unquote greater good of society. We should be wary of the greater good, but that's the general kind of reason why we do that. So if we're going to hold it to the same standard, under what circumstances should we deem a person to lose their right to vote under a similar, it could be potentially dangerous to themselves or society? So like, as I'm speaking those words, I'm realizing, yes, there's definitely differences between the situation. However, it could also be argued if they're voting for policies that could potentially hurt other folks. And that's why I do think it is a very nuanced conversation, just because there's so many different examples that could be cited for this, that, or the other thing.
Sure.
I don't know what else have we got, man.
Well, that's the point, though, isn't it? I mean, we keep on going to the same point. We think that there are definitely certain citizens that lose their right to vote. Let me pose a different question to you, because we keep on going down to where it should be cut off. Why should the people, in your opinion, lose their right to vote just because they're a paedophile or a murderer, if you don't think that other people should?
Honestly, it could be just more of an emotional reaction for me.
Okay.
Because I see, being a murderer, or I mean, there's people who say that pedophile. There's a lot of people who believe that, being a pedophile or a rapist is, a much worse crime.
It's taking a long time. I'm trying.
Despite the fact that as a murderer, you've actually taken someone's life permanently. It also could be just, this is emotional. I feel this crime is worse, so.
Is that a good way of thinking then? That using your emotional aspects of your brain to dictate policy, is that a good idea?
Most of the time, no, but sometimes it could be.
Is it a good idea in this aspect?
I don't know.
Hi, gentlemen.
Okay, at least you're honest. That's not a problem. What about you, then, Memes?
That is a very the way Cultham was going right there. Just for a quick maybe thought on that, is that at the same time, if the argument, because we do also kind of got to hold society together. So if all of a sudden, if you're not necessarily punishing people for crimes that are absolutely abhorrent to folks within the citizenry, if they feel like injustice is not being done, then again, you need to have that societal cohesion there. Where do a person's rights end? Where do another person's rights begin there? I don't know, man. I don't know. You would need to look at a very large amount of data to have some form of that actual line.
Can y'all hear me?
Like, even if as human beings we try to do that, we're going to kind of gerrymander it in a way as well, which is why.
Man, I can't get my audio over there.
Who brought it up? But
I hooked the Yeti up.
Maybe
For some reason, they don't hear me.
classification.
It's fucking killing me. I'm about ready to split, though. I'll do another live stream later because I'm going to go over there right now.
Misdemeanors or felonies
Bye,
may or may
y'all.
not work.